The question of recreating Khaenri'ah always lingers the more we uncover the history of its fall. But today, I want to focus on the future, and more specifically, the one character that always seems to shine when it comes to questionable technologies that could change the world or burn it down completely. But today, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and show the potential good that his mission can do for a fallen civilization. So that's why today, I want to theorize that Albedo and his mission will be what saves the Khaenri'ahs. Disclaimer: this is all just a theory and speculation, and nothing is indicative of the final product. Especially since this theory has been well in the works across the fandom for years now, ever since Albedo was first released with the questionable ending to his story quest. And the weird part is that we barely have much to work off of. So this video is less of an actual theory and more just a way to spark the conversation on Albedo's true nature and who Rhinedottir is after the events of the new content. So let's begin. I theorize that Albedo's purpose is to find a way to reverse the curse placed on the Khaenri'ahs by utilizing alchemy as a way to recreate the human lives of Khaenri'ah's people. And it all goes back to Rhinedottir. We know that Rhinedottir is currently not working for the Abyss, but this information could change in the future. But the focus of this entire theory is a question of why go on with your research? Surely seeing an entire civilization fall because of your creation going berserk, or your search for knowledge corrupting you and the people that you were close with, would at least make you realize the repercussion of such an act. However, even to this day, it doesn't seem like she is discontinuing her research, and I propose that it comes from repentance. I theorize that Gold, as Rhinedottir, was brought down by her own creation and was sentenced by Celestia with the curse of immortality. Through her own realization that her ambitions were what caused it, she pursues another goal for her alchemy, the reconstruction of Khaenri'ah through abiogenesis. These can be done in either of two ways. First is the creation of simulacra or homunculi. These are synthetic bodies that, if perfected, can act like humans and even live human lives authentically. But the second one is the reversal of the curse of immortality through alchemy. I theorize that unlike the current Abyss's plan to wield abyssal power, or to mess with the loom of fate, or to defy destinies entirely, Rhinedottir's advanced art of Khaenri'ah could ultimately transform the Abyss by somehow cancelling out the curse and giving them a biological body similar to a human's. And this method is not overly impossible. We have seen an Abyss Lector before assume the form of a human for a relatively extended period of time. Rhinedottir's method would be more potent and a permanent version of this. She could permanently end the curse for those that haven't been afflicted, she could return the mental faculties of those who lost their entire identity, or she could give the monsters a new host body entirely. That is the extent of this theory, and why Rhinedottir tries so hard that she hasn't stopped her pursuit of science. Perhaps as a final atonement for her sins, considering it was her fault that so many lives have been cursed to live forever. But to expand this theory, we first need to actually find a way to justify her being a good or moral person. And we have to understand Albedo instead as her proxy. And it's through his actions and motivations that his master's intentions are ultimately revealed. Let's begin with his background. Albedo's creation was during the transition years between the current game and the fall of Khaenri'ah, leaving his real age unknown for the most part. His creation was from the project known as the Primordial Human Project. His creation is from an abiogenesis method of alchemy by presumably using chalk, but the specifics of that method are currently unknown. What we do know is that the alchemy used, or the art of Khaenri'ah, was also used to create bestial life forms that were covered in black soil. These creatures are the Rift Hounds, or the Alphazals, and the Dragon, or Humus. Basing this from Albedo's name being Albedo, it's also safe to assume that the Rift Hounds and Durin are under the process of Negredo. The Primordial Human Project was Rhinedottir's next step in continuing her research, and was started before the fall of Khaenri'ah. This is where the previous prototypes of Albedo came to exist, each with a defunct that led them being disposed of. It was also hinted that the Albedo process also produced non-human prototypes in this stage. After the Cataclysm, Albedo and Rhinedottir went to traverse several dungeons and even across the land, and it was there that he was taught about the secrets of alchemy. However, the real question is, what is Albedo studying? From what we currently know in the lore, the apex achievement is the creation of human life. That is the true purpose of Rhinedottir and subsequently Rhinedottir's projects. Albedo's pursuit is to inevitably find the truth of this world, whatever it may be. When we first meet Albedo, we are told that he is examining life beyond this world and finding a way to study its similarities, differences, and survivability amongst the people and ecosystems of Teyvat. Albedo was also given the last manuscripts of the Opus Magnum, or the magnum opus in our world. The magnum opus is a term for working with materials to create the Philosopher's Stone, and it involves the 4 processes that were mentioned by Albedo in his voice lines: Nigredo, Albedo, Citrinitas, and Rubido. However, Albedo's voice lines switched the last 2 processes, stating that Citrinitas is the last step rather than Rubido. This could potentially be an error on his end or a foreshadowing of things to come. This would also explain the connection between Opus Magnum, Rhinedottir, and the concept of gold with Citrinitas. So with this, I want to theorize that Albedo's true purpose set out by Rhinedottir was for him to recreate the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone has a lot of history, but some of its main properties is that it can transmute common stone into gold and other precious metals, it can act as a panacea and heal all forms of illness, it can revive dead plants, and it can also create clones and homunculi. And what would this Philosopher's Stone be? I theorize that it's a recreation or even an improvement of the Genesis Pearl of Khaenri'ah. The Genesis Pearl was first mentioned in the Battle Pass and the breeze amidst the forest, where an Atrua's sun befell its kingdom and a luminous pearl lost its glow. In the Battle Pass's story, it was also the responsibility of the crowned heir to seek out the Genesis Pearl from the Kingdom of Darkness. I believe that whatever this pearl is both symbolic of Khaenri'ah's glow as a prosperous nation, hence Albedo's mission of revival being what sparks it, but also an alchemical artifact that is crucial in creation and the art of chemia, hence Genesis. I also theorize that the original Genesis Pearl was what allowed the sages of Khaenri'ah to even begin utilizing the art, since it used to be a practiced technique. Albedo's Philosopher's Stone, however, would be an improvement of that, but I want to shift my focus on Rhinedottir as a character. So what I first want to understand is why she left Albedo. Finding the heart of Naberius was a crucial step in her research that warranted her leaving Albedo behind. The Heart of Naberius is an artifact whose namesake is derived from the Ars Goetia, and I think it can give us a glimpse into Rhinedottir's redemption. Naberius appears as a 3-headed dog with a hoarse voice. He makes a man amiable and cunning in all arts, and he restores lost dignities and honors. For a scientist, this artifact would be Rhinedottir's way of extending her research, but as a sinner, it could be a means of repentance. But Naberius is also commonly associated with Cerberus or Kerberos, the Hound of Hades and a guard of the gates of the underworld. So, with this being our core symbolism, it's possible that Rhinedottir wants to find a way to transcend death with this artifact, and that whatever she found is the key to combating the curse of immortality, and this is the key to find her lost honor after she was deemed a sinner. Leaving Albedo behind in Mondstadt would also suggest that her new mission is far more dangerous than what he is ready for, or that she has a new focus in his work outside of the Opus Magnum. But I don't think that she abandoned him completely. From a practical perspective, it would be unwise to leave behind a prototype of one of your projects, so I think she simply wants him to continue where they left off in an environment she deems is both safe and accommodating enough for his research, which leads me to Alice. Albedo being left behind is also an important perspective when attempting to understand the nature of Rhinedottir's end goals, and I believe that it's because Albedo needs to understand human interaction to perfect the Opus Magnum. Leaving him behind in isolation would be preferable for Albedo. However, I do think that human interaction, especially being put in a society as open as Mondstadt, is important. Think of it like this. Besides Albedo's lack of interest in human behavior, it is still invaluable information to have. Not only to quote-unquote make friends, but also because of his nature as an inhuman specimen. And this extends to the creation and recreation of human life. Birth in and of itself is simply the first part of humanity, and if Albedo can't understand human emotions, complex relationships, and even biases, then what good would his recreations be? However, the decision to leave him behind with Alice is also another point of interest. Alice is known to be aware of matters from beyond this world, and that she herself is a powerful anomaly in Teyvat. Leaving Albedo with Alice could mean that either his knowledge about otherworldly things are expanded, or that if he goes rogue, there's someone strong enough to stop him. And last, but perhaps the least, is the possibility of letting Albedo study Durin. Leaving Albedo in Mondstadt could have had a good way of somehow connecting the brothers, and let Albedo learn about his predecessors. So this could be a reason why she sent him to Mondstadt. But a key element to understanding Rhinedottir and Albedo as characters is Alice herself. Because why would Alice help her? From Alice's perspective, friend or not, Rhinedottir is a powerful and intelligent person that fell from grace, and was responsible for the fall of a whole nation and the invasion of many others. And now, Rhinedottir returns to her homeland with a creation that is far more superior and complex than the previous ones, and has the same or higher level of potential to harm her home. So why would Alice be convinced in helping Rhinedottir house this anomaly? Well, that's why I believe that Albedo's ultimate goal, and whatever Rhinedottir's motivation is, isn't as self-serving as it first appears. I believe that Alice was able to find the good in Rhinedottir's goals, and at the very least, it was sensible and good enough that Alice was willing to entrust her own daughter to Albedo. Or what if it's not? Rhinedottir's fate is difficult to trace even with what we know from Albedo and the many accounts of the lore. Whether she's now benevolent or nice, she was still one of the 5 sinners responsible for the fall of Khaenri'ah, and she also had a large part to play in the corruption of the other nations. And rather than regret her actions or realize the dangers of her alchemy after witnessing it firsthand, she continued. And what was dangerous is that Albedo himself is aware that he could be a potential threat to Mondstadt. So why would Rhinedottir, as this kind of person, sincerely be doing this for the greater good? It would still be naive to completely erase the possibility that everything she does and Albedo does is just science for science's sake. Cost be damned. Research into military tech even in our world continues to advance despite the many repercussions and lives cost. Furthermore, not once was it ever mentioned by Albedo that his ultimate goal was for the greater good, or even for the protection of Mondstadt. Albedo himself is neither an altruist nor a utilitarian. His science is meant to simply further science, at least as far as he's aware of, which could be a misplacement of intention. Is the possibility of Rhinedottir being repentant a strong enough perspective, or is it just a blindly optimistic outlook? We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, that was an interesting theory, and definitely a theory that I wanted to go back to after my break. Anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me. Bye-bye!